Billionaire CEO was in tears, but the janitor's little daughter silently comforted her. Before anything else, if this video finds you well, wherever you are, let me know how it made you feel at the end. The emergency board meeting had been brutal. Victoria Ashford stood motionless in her corner office on the 42nd floor of Ashford Technologies, watching the sunset bleed across San Francisco's skyline. At 27, she was the youngest female CEO in Silicon Valley, a title that came with a glass ceiling she'd shattered and a glass cage she couldn't escape. Ms. Ashford, the quarterly reports are ready for your review. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, professional and distant, always distant. Victoria didn't respond. She pressed her forehead against the cold window, feeling the vibration of the building beneath her feet, the pulse of an empire built on her father's legacy and her own relentless ambition. $3 billion in annual revenue, 2,000 employees, 0 people who actually knew her. The reflection staring back at her was flawless. Tailored Armani suit, hair pulled into a severe bun, makeup that concealed the sleepless nights. But her hands were trembling. They'd been trembling since Thomas Crawford, the lead investor, had leaned across the mahogany table and said, "Your father would be disappointed in these numbers, Victoria. Perhaps it's time to consider bringing in more experienced leadership. More experienced. Code for older, code for male." She'd maintained her composure throughout the meeting, presenting counter-arguments with surgical precision, defending every decision with data and projections. She'd won, technically. The board had voted to maintain confidence in her leadership, but the damage was done. The whispers would spread. The doubt would metastasize. Victoria walked to her desk, her heels clicking against the marble floor with mechanical precision. The office was a monument to minimalist power. White walls, glass furniture, abstract art that cost more than most people's houses. Not a single photograph, not a single personal item. Nothing that revealed the person behind the position. Her phone buzzed. 17 missed calls from her mother. Victoria silenced it without looking at the messages. Patricia Ashford hadn't called in months, and when she did, it was always about money or social obligations or another charity gala, where Victoria would be paraded like a show horse. The trembling in her hands intensified. Victoria gripped the edge of her desk, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the glass. She couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here, not now. She'd mastered the art of control, built her entire identity on unshakable composure. But control was an illusion, and illusions shattered. The panic attack hit like a wave, drowning her in sensations she'd learned to suppress. Her chest constricted, her vision blurred. She stumbled backward, her shoulder hitting the window with a dull thud. Tears, hot, angry, unexpected, streamed down her face, ruining the makeup that had taken 20 minutes to apply. Victoria Ashford, the ice queen of Silicon Valley, was crying in her office at 7:47 p.m. on a Thursday evening, and she couldn't stop. She slid down the wall, her expensive suit crumpling against the floor. Through the glass walls of her office, she could see her employees packing up for the day, laughing at something on someone's computer screen, living lives that didn't revolve around quarterly reports and investor expectations. Nobody looked in her direction. They never did. The glass walls were supposed to symbolize transparency and accessibility, but they were really just another barrier. People saw her title, her power, her wealth. They never saw her. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Victoria lost track of time, lost in the chaos of her own mind. She thought about her father, dead 3 years now from a heart attack at 52. She thought about the last conversation they'd had, the disappointment in his eyes when she told him she wanted to study art instead of business. Ashfords don't pursue hobbies, Victoria. We build empires. So she'd built an empire, and she'd buried every part of herself that didn't fit the blueprint. The sound of the door opening made her freeze. She looked up, expecting her assistant or a security guard, ready to compose herself and offer some excuse about allergies or stress. Instead, she saw a child. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, stood in the doorway. She had dark curly hair pulled into 2 uneven ponytails, brown eyes that seemed too old for her face, and she was wearing a purple sweater with a unicorn on it. She was holding a crumpled tissue in one small hand. Victoria stared at her, too stunned to speak. Children weren't allowed in the executive offices. Children didn't exist in this world of steel and glass and corporate warfare. The girl walked forward without hesitation, her sneakers squeaking slightly on the marble floor. She stopped directly in front of Victoria and extended the tissue. "You're crying." the girl said simply, as if this explained everything. Victoria's voice came out broken, unfamiliar. What are you doing here? My daddy works here. He cleans the offices at night. The girl tilted her head, studying Victoria with unnerving directness. Are you sad? Such a simple question. Such an impossible question. Victoria had spent years perfecting the art of deflection, of redirection, of never revealing vulnerability. But this child, this stranger, had walked into her fortress and asked the one thing nobody else dared to ask. Yes, Victoria whispered. I'm sad. The girl nodded as if this made perfect sense. Then, without asking permission, she sat down cross-legged on the floor next to Victoria and placed the crumpled tissue in her hand. It's okay to be sad, the girl said. My teacher says everybody gets sad sometimes, even grown-ups. Victoria looked at the tissue. Wrinkled, slightly damp, probably used earlier for the girl's own tears or runny nose. It was the most thoughtful gift anyone had given her in years. What's your name? Victoria asked. Lily. Lily Rodriguez. What's your name? For a moment, Victoria almost said her title. Miss Ashford, CEO, the woman on the magazine covers and conference panels. But something in this child's honest gaze made her want to be something simpler. Victoria, that's a pretty name. Like a queen. Lily smiled, revealing a missing front tooth. Do you work here too? Yes, I run the company. Oh, Lily seemed to consider this. That sounds hard. It is hard. They sat in silence for a moment. Through the window, the city lights were beginning to twinkle. Thousands of lives unfolding in apartments and restaurants and street corners. Victoria had forgotten what it felt like to just sit, to just be, without performing or strategizing or defending. Lily, a man's voice called from somewhere down the hallway, urgent and worried. Lily, where are you? The girl stood up quickly. That's my daddy. I wasn't supposed to leave the break room. I'm gonna be in trouble. A man appeared in the doorway, and Victoria recognized him immediately. Marcus Rodriguez, one of the night janitors. She'd seen him countless times, always working quietly, always invisible. He was young, maybe mid-30s, with kind eyes that were currently filled with panic. I'm so sorry, Ms. Ashford, Marcus said quickly, reaching for his daughter's hand. Lily, you can't just wander off. I told you to stay in the break room until I finished. She wasn't bothering me, Victoria interrupted, surprised by her own words. She stood up, trying to salvage some dignity despite her tear-stained face and rumpled suit. She was helping. Marcus looked confused, then concerned. Are you all right, ma'am? I'm fine. The lie came automatically, but it felt different now. Lighter. Your daughter is very kind. Lily beamed up at her father. See, Daddy? I told you everybody needs help sometimes. Marcus's expression softened as he looked at his daughter, and Victoria saw something in his face that made her chest ache. Pure, uncomplicated love. When was the last time someone had looked at her like that? Well, we should let Ms. Ashford get back to work, Marcus said gently. Say goodbye, Lily. Bye, Victoria. Lily waved enthusiastically. I hope you feel better. They left, the door clicking shut behind them. Victoria stood alone in her office once again, holding a crumpled tissue that smelled faintly of strawberry lip gloss. For the first time in 3 years, she smiled. Victoria's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., the same time it had for the past 5 years. She silenced it immediately and lay in the darkness of her bedroom, staring at the ceiling of her Pacific Heights penthouse. Usually, she'd be out of bed in seconds, already mentally reviewing her schedule and prioritizing tasks. But this morning, she couldn't stop thinking about Lily Rodriguez and her crumpled tissue. She'd gone home last night and stood in front of her bathroom mirror, really looking at herself for the first time in months. The woman staring back was successful, polished, and completely hollow. When had she become this person? When had ambition transformed into isolation? Her phone buzzed with the first batch of emails. Victoria ignored them and instead did something unprecedented. She opened her laptop and searched for information about her company's janitorial staff. Marcus Rodriguez, age 34, had been working at Ashford Technologies for 2 years. Before that, he'd worked at 3 other cleaning companies. His employee file was minimal, punctual, reliable, no complaints. There was a small notation about his daughter. Single parent, may occasionally need to bring child to work site during school breaks or emergencies. Single parent. Victoria closed her laptop and thought about the way Marcus had looked at Lily, the gentle concern in his voice. She thought about her own father, who'd viewed her as an investment rather than a daughter, and her mother, who'd viewed her as a social asset. Lily Rodriguez was 7 years old and already had something Victoria had never experienced. A parent who truly saw her. The thought should have made her bitter, but instead it made her curious. At the office, Victoria found herself distracted during meetings, glancing at the clock and wondering what time the janitorial staff arrived. Her assistant, Jennifer, noticed the unusual behavior. "Ms. Ashford, is everything all right? You seem distant today." "I'm fine, Jennifer. Just thinking about some personnel matters." That evening, Victoria did something else unprecedented. She stayed late, working past 7 p.m. when most employees had left. She told herself it was to catch up on emails, to review the reports she'd neglected during the day. But when she heard the distant sound of a vacuum cleaner starting up, she knew she'd been waiting for this. She found them on the 38th floor. Marcus was emptying trash cans with efficient movements, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. Lily was sitting in an empty cubicle, surrounded by coloring books and crayons, humming softly to herself. Victoria stood in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. What was she doing? She was the CEO of a billion-dollar company, and she'd stayed late to see a janitor's 7-year-old daughter. This wasn't rational. This wasn't professional. But Lily looked up and her face lit up with recognition. "Victoria, you're still here." Marcus turned quickly, surprise flashing across his face. "Ms. Ashford, I'm sorry, we're not disturbing anything, are we? I can move to a different floor." "No, it's fine." Victoria walked forward slowly, feeling awkward and out of place in her own building. "I was just working late. I heard voices." Lily jumped up from the cubicle holding a piece of paper. "Look what I drew, it's you." Victoria took the drawing. It was a stick figure with yellow hair and a big smile, standing in front of a tall building. The figure had a crown on its head. "You said your name was like a queen," Lily explained. "So I drew you as a queen with your castle." Victoria's throat tightened. She couldn't remember the last time someone had made something for her that wasn't a business proposal or a quarterly report. "It's beautiful, Lily, thank you. You can keep it. I make lots of drawings. Daddy says I'm going to be a famous artist someday." Marcus smiled, but Victoria caught the shadow that passed over his face. "Lily can be anything she wants to be, that's what matters." "What does she want to be?" Victoria asked, genuinely curious. Lily answered immediately. "A veterinarian. I want to help sick animals get better, especially dogs. I love dogs, but we can't have one in our apartment because it's too small, and the landlord said no pets." "Lily," Marcus said gently, a warning in his tone. But Victoria was interested now. "What kind of dogs do you like?" Lily launched into an enthusiastic explanation about golden retrievers and how they were the best dogs in the world because they were smart and friendly and had soft fur. Marcus continued working, occasionally interjecting with corrections or reminders for Lily to lower her voice. But Victoria could see him relaxing slightly, the tension in his shoulders easing. She found herself sitting on the edge of a desk, listening to Lily talk about her school, her favorite teacher, her best friend Maya, who moved away last month. It was the longest conversation Victoria had had with anyone in weeks that didn't involve profit margins or strategic planning. "Lily, sweetie, it's getting late," Marcus finally interrupted. "Ms. Ashford probably has work to do." "Actually," Victoria said before she could stop herself, "I was about to order dinner. There's a great Thai place that delivers. Would you? Would you like to join me?" The offer hung in the air, absurd and completely inappropriate. CEOs didn't have dinner with janitorial staff. They didn't sit in empty offices eating takeout with single fathers and their daughters. But Victoria didn't take it back. Marcus looked uncomfortable. "That's very kind, Ms. Ashford, but we couldn't." "Please?" Lily interrupted. "I'm really hungry, Daddy. You said we'd get McDonald's, but this sounds even better." Victoria saw Marcus's jaw tighten, saw the pride warring with practicality. She realized her mistake. The offer might have seemed like charity, like she was highlighting the difference in their circumstances. "I'm sorry," Victoria said quickly. "That was presumptuous. I just thought we'd love to," Marcus said quietly. "Thank you." An hour later, they were sitting in Victoria's office, containers of pad thai and green curry spread across her glass desk. Lily sat in Victoria's chair, spinning slowly and giggling while Marcus perched on the edge of the leather sofa, still looking slightly stunned by the situation. "This is the best dinner ever," Lily declared, her mouth full of noodles. Victoria smiled, realizing she couldn't remember the last time she'd enjoyed a meal. Usually she ate at her desk, barely tasting the food, already thinking about the next task. "How long have you worked here, Marcus?" she asked. 2 years. Before that, I was at a tech company in San Jose, but the commute was killing me. This job pays a little less, but I can be home with Lily during the day. He makes me breakfast every morning, Lily added proudly. Pancakes on weekends. What did you do before? Before janitorial work? Victoria asked carefully. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. I was studying engineering at San Jose State, but life had other plans. What kind of engineering? Mechanical. I wanted to design prosthetics, actually. Artificial limbs for people who'd lost them. I thought it would be meaningful work. Victoria heard the longing in his voice. The dream deferred. Why did you stop? Marcus glanced at Lily, who was now drawing on a napkin. My wife got sick when Lily was 2, stage 4 lymphoma. I dropped out to take care of both of them. She died when Lily was 4. The words were stated simply without self-pity, but they landed in Victoria's chest like stones. She thought about her own struggles, her board meetings and investor pressures, and felt suddenly small. I'm so sorry. It was 3 years ago. We're okay now. Aren't we, Lilybug? Lily nodded vigorously. Daddy takes really good care of me, and Mama's watching us from heaven. She sends me signs sometimes. What kind of signs? Victoria asked softly. Butterflies. Mama loved butterflies. Whenever I see one, I know she's saying hi. Marcus's eyes were bright with unshed tears. He cleared his throat. Lily has a great imagination. But Victoria saw it wasn't imagination. It was survival, a 7-year-old's way of keeping her mother alive. She thought about her own father, about how she'd never allowed herself to grieve, just buried herself in work and expectations. I think that's beautiful, Victoria said. Your mother sounds like she was a wonderful person, Lily. She was the best. Daddy says I have her smile. They talked until nearly 10 p.m., long past when Marcus should have finished his shift. Victoria learned that Lily was in 2nd grade and struggling with math but excelling in reading. She learned that Marcus worked 2 jobs, the night shift at Ashford Technologies and weekend shifts at a grocery store. She learned that despite everything, they were happy. When they finally left, Marcus hesitated at the door. Thank you, Ms. Ashford, for dinner and for seeing us. Most people don't. Call me Victoria, she said. And thank you for letting me be part of your evening. Lily hugged her spontaneously, wrapping small arms around Victoria's waist. You're not sad anymore. I can tell. After they left, Victoria stood alone in her office, feeling the ghost of Lily's hug, the warmth of simple human connection. She looked at the drawing still sitting on her desk, the stick figure queen with the big smile. For the first time in years, Victoria Ashford wanted to be that person. Not the CEO, not the title, not the armor, just the woman with the smile, worthy of a child's innocent affection. She just didn't know how to start. 3 weeks passed, and Victoria found herself staying late at the office almost every evening. She told herself it was to catch up on work, to review strategies, to plan for the next quarter. But Jennifer knew better. You're working too hard, Ms. Ashford, her assistant said one afternoon. You're going to burn out. Victoria looked up from her computer. I'm fine, Jennifer. You're staying until 10 p.m. every night. That's not healthy. What Victoria didn't say was that those evening hours, when the building was mostly empty and the pressure of performance eased, had become the best part of her day. She'd started leaving her office door open around 7 p.m., and Lily would appear like clockwork, sometimes with a new drawing, sometimes with a story from school, sometimes just to sit quietly and color while Victoria worked. Marcus was always apologetic, always careful to maintain professional boundaries. But Victoria saw the way he watched his daughter interact with her, the cautious hope in his eyes. Lily was a happy child, but she craved female attention, adult conversation that wasn't rushed or distracted. And Victoria craved something too, though she was only beginning to understand what. One Thursday evening, Lily burst into Victoria's office with unusual excitement. Victoria, guess what? Tomorrow is career day at school, and everyone's bringing their parents to talk about their jobs. Marcus appeared behind her, carrying his cleaning supplies. Lily, we talked about this. I can't come during the day. I have to work at the store. Lily's face fell. But everyone else's parents are coming. Maya's dad is a firefighter and Emma's mom is a doctor and… I know, sweetie, I'm sorry. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. Maybe I can write something down for you to share. It's not the same, Lily said quietly, and Victoria saw tears forming in her eyes. Victoria made a decision without thinking it through. I could go. Both Marcus and Lily stared at her. What? Marcus asked. I could go to career day. Talk about running a technology company, if that would help. Lily's face transformed. Really? You would do that? Absolutely not, Marcus said firmly. Ms. Ashford, you're the CEO of a major corporation. You don't have time for elementary school career days. I have meetings, Victoria admitted, but I can reschedule them. Why would you do that? Marcus asked, and there was something in his voice beyond confusion, suspicion maybe, or fear that this was some kind of charity that would come with strings attached. Victoria looked at Lily's hopeful face and realized she didn't have a good answer that wouldn't sound condescending or pitying. The truth was simpler and more selfish than Marcus would believe. She wanted to. She wanted to be part of something real, something that mattered beyond stock prices and board meetings. Because Lily asked me to, Victoria said simply. Marcus studied her for a long moment. This isn't. You're not doing this because you feel sorry for us? I'm doing it because I want to. If that's okay with you? He nodded slowly. Okay, thank you. Lily launched herself at Victoria, hugging her with the unself-conscious enthusiasm of a 7-year-old. This is the best thing ever. Wait until I tell Maya. I mean, tell my new friend Sarah, because Maya moved away, but Sarah is really nice too, and… The next morning, Victoria did something she hadn't done in 5 years. She called in to cancel her morning meetings. Jennifer sounded genuinely shocked. Are you sick, Ms. Ashford? No, I have a commitment I can't break. She drove to Maple Elementary School in her Tesla, feeling absurdly nervous. She'd given presentations to 1,000-person audiences, negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions, faced down hostile investors and skeptical journalists. But the thought of talking to a classroom of second graders made her palms sweat. Lily was waiting by the school entrance, practically vibrating with excitement. You came, you really came? Victoria smiled. Of course I did. I promised. Lily grabbed her hand and pulled her down hallways decorated with colorful artwork and alphabet posters. Other parents were arriving. A firefighter in full gear, a woman in surgical scrubs, a man with a police badge. They all looked comfortable, confident, like they'd done this before. Victoria felt overdressed in her business suit, out of place in this world of small desks and construction paper. Lily's classroom was bright and chaotic, filled with 23 7-year-olds who were varying degrees of excited and distracted. The teacher, Mrs. Chen, was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an air of patient authority. Class, we have a very special guest today. This is Ms. Ashford, and she's going to tell us about her job running a big company that makes computer programs. Victoria stepped to the front of the classroom, and 23 pairs of eyes stared at her with varying degrees of interest. She'd prepared a presentation, but looking at these children, she realized her usual corporate speak wouldn't work here. Hi everyone, my name is Victoria, and I run a company called Ashford Technologies. We make software, computer programs, that help people do their jobs better. Does anyone know what software is? A boy in the front row raised his hand. Is it like apps on my mom's phone? Exactly like that. We create the apps that people use every day. Do you make games? Another child asked hopefully. Not games, unfortunately. We make programs for businesses, like programs that help stores keep track of what they're selling, or programs that help doctors keep medical records organized. She saw several children lose interest immediately. Victoria felt a flash of panic. She was losing them. She talked about user interfaces and data management, about market positioning and scalability, and watched young eyes glaze over. Then Lily raised her hand. Victoria, what's your favorite part of your job? The question stopped Victoria cold. What was her favorite part? Meeting deadlines? Exceeding projections? Beating competitors? I think, Victoria said slowly, my favorite part is when we create something that helps people. Like we made a program for hospitals that helps doctors see all their patient information in one place. That means doctors can spend less time looking at computers and more time actually helping sick people get better. Like a veterinarian helping sick dogs? Lily asked. Victoria smiled. Exactly like that. What's the hardest part? Another child asked. Victoria thought about Thomas Crawford and the board meeting, about the constant pressure to prove herself, about the loneliness of leadership. But she couldn't say that to 7-year-olds. The hardest part is making decisions when you're not sure what the right answer is. Sometimes I have to choose between two things that both seem good, and I won't know if I made the right choice until later. What if you make a mistake? A small girl in pigtails asked. Then I try to fix it and learn from it. Everyone makes mistakes, even CEOs. Mrs. Chen smiled approvingly. What would you tell our students about working hard in school? Victoria looked at the children, really looked at them. 23 kids from different backgrounds, different dreams, different futures. Some would become doctors or engineers. Some would become artists or teachers. Some would struggle. Some would soar. I tell you that success isn't just about being smart or getting good grades. It's about being kind to people and being brave enough to keep trying even when things are hard, and remembering that the work you do matters most when it helps other people. She realized as she said it that she'd forgotten that lesson herself. She'd spent years chasing metrics and benchmarks, forgetting that businesses existed to serve human needs, not just generate profits. After her presentation, Victoria stayed for the other parents. She watched the firefighter demonstrate how his equipment worked, saw the doctor explain how she listened to heartbeats, listened to the police officer talk about keeping communities safe. These were people who saw the direct impact of their work every single day. She envied them. During lunch, Victoria sat with Lily at the small cafeteria tables, her knees bumping awkwardly against the underside. 2 months after Career Day, Victoria's life had transformed in ways she couldn't have predicted. She still worked long hours, still attended board meetings and managed crises, but the evening hours belonged to something different, something real. She'd started bringing books for Lily, chapter books about animals and adventure that they'd read together while Marcus worked. She'd bought art supplies and kept them in her office. She'd learned that Lily's favorite color was purple, that she was terrified of thunderstorms, that she still slept with a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunks that had belonged to her mother. And she'd learned things about Marcus too, that he'd been an honor student before dropping out, that he wrote poetry late at night when Lily was sleeping, that he'd loved his wife, Elena, with a devotion that death hadn't diminished. But she'd also noticed things that worried her. The way Marcus rubbed his left shoulder when he thought nobody was watching, the exhaustion that shadowed his eyes despite his smiles, the threadbare quality of Lily's clothes, carefully mended but obviously outgrown. One evening in early November, Victoria made a decision that would change everything. "Marcus, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Alone?" He looked up from emptying trash cans, concern immediately crossing his face. "Of course. Is something wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong. I have a proposition for you." They stepped into an empty conference room. Through the window, Victoria could see Lily practicing her reading with one of Victoria's books, mouthing words carefully. "I've been thinking," Victoria began, then stopped. "How did you offer help without making it seem like charity? The company has an employee education program. It's designed to help staff members pursue degrees that could advance their careers here. I was wondering if you'd ever considered going back to school." Marcus's expression shuddered immediately. "I appreciate the thought, Ms. Ashford, but I can't afford to lose work hours for classes. And I definitely can't afford tuition. The program covers full tuition at any local university, and classes could be scheduled around your work hours. Online options are available too." "Why are you telling me this?" Victoria met his eyes. "Because you're brilliant, Marcus. I've watched you help Lily with her homework. I've heard you talk about engineering concepts with more clarity than some of my senior developers. You shouldn't be emptying trash cans for the rest of your life." "There's nothing wrong with emptying trash cans," Marcus said quietly, and Victoria heard the hurt beneath the words. "You're right. I'm sorry. That came out wrong." She took a breath. "What I meant is that you have dreams you put aside. Maybe it's time to pick them back up." "And what happens to Lily while I'm in class? Who watches her?" Victoria had anticipated this question. "The company also has a childcare program. We have an excellent facility on the 3rd floor for employees' children. Lily would be supervised, fed, and she could do homework there until you finish your shift." Marcus stared at her. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you deserve it. Both of you." "We barely know each other." "That's not true." Victoria's voice was softer now. "I know that you read Lily 3 stories every night even though you're exhausted. I know that you skip lunch to save money for her birthday present. I know that you're teaching her to be kind and brave and honest. I know enough." Marcus turned away, his jaw working. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "I can't accept charity, Victoria. I have my pride. It's not charity. It's an employee benefit. Hundreds of people have used this program. You'd be earning it through your work here. Then why hasn't anyone told me about it before?" Victoria hesitated. This was the moment of truth. "Because I just created it. Well, I expanded an existing scholarship fund that wasn't being fully utilized. But it's real, Marcus. It's a legitimate company program now." He turned back to face her, and she saw tears in his eyes. "You did this for me. I did it because it was the right thing to do." And yes, because I wanted to help you. Is that so terrible? They stood in silence for a long moment. Through the window, they could see Lily holding up the book triumphantly, having apparently finished a difficult page. I need to think about it, Marcus finally said. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Victoria saw the war happening behind his eyes. Pride battling with hope. Fear fighting with possibility. She'd planted a seed. Now she had to wait and see if it would grow. That night, after Marcus and Lily left, Victoria sat in her office and did something she hadn't done since her father's funeral. She called her mother. Victoria? Is everything all right? Patricia Ashford's voice was sharp with concern. Victoria only called when absolutely necessary. I'm fine, Mom. I just wanted to ask you something. Do you remember when I wanted to study art? When I was 17? A long pause. Of course I remember. Your father was devastated. What did you think? Did you want me to pursue it? Another pause, longer this time. I thought you had talent, real talent, but your father was right. Art doesn't build dynasties. Business does. What if he was wrong? What if building a dynasty isn't the only thing that matters? Victoria, what is this about? Victoria looked at Lily's drawing on her desk. The stick figure queen with the big smile. I'm just wondering if we sacrificed the wrong things. If I sacrificed the wrong things. You're successful. You're powerful. You have everything. Do I? Victoria's voice broke slightly. When was the last time you asked me if I was happy? The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Patricia spoke and her voice was different, smaller, almost vulnerable. Are you happy, Victoria? I'm starting to be, but I don't think I've been happy for a very long time. After she hung up, Victoria sat in the darkness and cried. But these tears were different from the ones Lily had witnessed 2 months ago. These tears were cleansing, releasing years of pressure and pretense. The next evening, Marcus found her in her office. Lily was with him, holding his hand. I talked to Lily about your offer, Marcus said. We discussed it as a family because big decisions affect both of us. Victoria's heart hammered. And, I want to accept, but I have conditions. Name them. I pay back every cent of tuition once I graduate and get a better job. This is a loan, not a gift. Marcus, those are my terms. Take it or leave it. Victoria saw the steel in his eyes and realized this was about more than money. This was about dignity, about remaining equal in a relationship that could easily become unbalanced. Deal. But you should know that most people who use this program don't pay it back. They pay it forward, helping the next person who needs it. Marcus smiled and it transformed his face. Then I'll do both. Lily, who had been vibrating with suppressed excitement, finally burst out. Does this mean Daddy can be an engineer again? This means your daddy can try, Marcus said, pulling her close. It'll be hard work and it'll take time. 4 years, Lily said seriously. That's when I'll be 11, that's okay, I can wait. Victoria felt something crack open in her chest. This child, who'd already lost so much, was willing to sacrifice more so her father could chase a dream. And Marcus, who'd already given up everything, was willing to try again. There's something else, Marcus said quietly. I enrolled in classes starting in January, but I was wondering, Lily's birthday is next week, she's turning 8. We usually just do something small, but I thought maybe. He stopped, looking uncertain. You want me to come to her birthday party? Victoria asked. She wants you there, she talks about you constantly, you're important to her. He paused. You're important to both of us. The words hung in the air, meaning more than they said. Victoria thought about all the birthday parties she'd attended over the years. Expensive charity galas, networking events disguised as celebrations, gatherings where the gifts cost more than most people's monthly rent. She'd never been to a child's birthday party. She'd never been to any celebration where she was wanted just for being herself. I'd be honored, Victoria said. Lily squealed and threw her arms around Victoria. It's going to be the best birthday ever. But as Victoria hugged the little girl back, she saw Marcus watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. Something between gratitude and fear, hope and hesitation. She didn't know it yet, but that expression was a warning. Some truths once revealed change everything. And the truth about Victoria Ashford, about her past and her connection to this family, was about to surface in ways none of them could predict. Lily's birthday party was held in Marcus's apartment in the Mission District, a third-floor walk-up that was clean but cramped. Victoria arrived with gifts she'd carefully chosen. Art supplies, books about animals, a stuffed golden retriever that looked soft enough to sleep with. She'd agonized over the choices. wanting to be generous without being excessive. But when she walked into the small living room decorated with homemade streamers and balloons, she realized her gifts were still too much. The other children, about 6 of them from Lily's class, had brought modest presents wrapped in comic section newspaper or reused gift bags. Victoria's professionally wrapped packages looked ostentatious by comparison. "Victoria!" Lily ran to her, wearing a purple dress that was clearly special occasion wear, probably purchased specifically for today. "You came. These are my friends from school. Sarah and Emma and Jackson and—" The children stared at Victoria with the frank curiosity of 8-year-olds. She was clearly different from their parents, dressed in casual clothes that probably cost more than their family spent on groceries in a month. "Nice to meet you all," Victoria said, feeling awkward and out of place. Marcus appeared from the tiny kitchen, carrying a homemade cake decorated with uneven purple frosting and 8 candles. He looked nervous, seeing Victoria in his space, his private world suddenly exposed. "Welcome to our home," he said. "It's not much, but it's wonderful," Victoria interrupted and meant it. The apartment was small, but it was filled with love. Lily's artwork covered the refrigerator. Photos of Elena were displayed on shelves alongside Lily's school pictures. Books were stacked everywhere. This was a home, something Victoria's sterile penthouse had never been. The party was chaotic and joyful. They played musical chairs and pinned the tail on the donkey. They ate pizza and cake. The children ran around shrieking with laughter while the handful of parents chatted in the kitchen, discussing school policies and neighborhood concerns. Victoria found herself talking to Sarah's mother, a nurse named Carmen who lived in the building. "So how do you know Marcus and Lily?" Carmen asked. "I work with Marcus," Victoria said, which was technically true, but felt like a lie. "At the cleaning company?" "At Ashford Technologies." Carmen's eyebrows rose. "Are you in management there?" Before Victoria could answer, Lily appeared with her camera, a cheap digital one that Marcus had probably saved for months to buy. "Victoria, take a picture with me and Daddy." They posed together, Marcus and Victoria flanking Lily, and Victoria felt the weight of Marcus's arm across her shoulders, casual and friendly. When she looked at the photo later, they looked like a family. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. After the other children left, Victoria helped Marcus clean up while Lily played with her new toys in her bedroom. They worked in comfortable silence, and Victoria realized she'd never done anything this domestic, this ordinary, in her entire privileged life. "Thank you for coming," Marcus said softly. It meant a lot to Lily, to both of us. "Thank you for inviting me. I can't remember the last time I had this much fun." Marcus paused in wiping down the counter. "Can I ask you something? Why us? You're a billionaire CEO. You could be anywhere with anyone. Why spend your time with a janitor and his daughter?" Victoria set down the trash bag she was holding. This was the question she'd been avoiding, the truth she wasn't sure how to articulate. "Because when I'm with you and Lily, I remember who I wanted to be before I became who I had to be. You make me feel human again." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "You're always human, Victoria. You just forgot for a while." He stepped closer, and Victoria's breath caught. There was something in his eyes, something warm and dangerous and full of possibility. For a moment she thought he might kiss her. For a moment, she wanted him to. But then Lily called from her bedroom, asking for help with something, and the moment shattered. Marcus stepped back, clearing his throat. "I should check on her." After he left the room, Victoria pressed her hand against her chest, feeling her heart race. This was dangerous. This was crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. Boss and employee, rich and poor, different worlds that weren't meant to intersect. But as she heard Marcus reading to Lily in the bedroom, his voice gentle and patient, Victoria realized something terrifying. She was falling in love, with both of them, with the family they'd created from tragedy and determination, with the life they'd built that had nothing to do with money or status or corporate success. She left quietly, not trusting herself to say goodbye without revealing too much. The following Monday, Victoria made another decision that would change everything. She called her head of HR into her office. "I want to see our records on charitable donations and community partnerships, specifically anything related to education or child welfare." She spent the next 3 days researching, planning, creating something bigger than a simple employee program. She established a foundation, the Elena Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship, named after Marcus's late wife, designed to help single parents pursue higher education. She didn't tell Marcus. She wanted it to be a surprise, a way of honoring the woman who'd raised Lily for 4 years, who'd loved Marcus enough to make him the man he was. But on Thursday evening, when she arrived at work, Marcus was waiting in her office, and he looked furious. "What is this?" He threw a newspaper on her desk. It was the business section, featuring an article about Victoria's new foundation. The article mentioned that the first recipient would be Marcus Rodriguez, a janitor at Ashford Technologies, whose wife had died of cancer. "Marcus, I can explain. You made me a charity case. You put my private life in the newspaper without asking me. That's not what happened. The PR department—" "I don't care about the PR department." His voice was louder than she'd ever heard it. "You had no right to use Elena's name, no right to tell the world about my family's tragedy. We're not a feel-good story for your company's image." "That's not why I did it," Victoria said, her own voice rising. "I did it to honor your wife, to help other people in your situation. By making us into a spectacle? By turning our pain into a press release?" Lily appeared in the doorway, her face frightened. "Daddy, why are you yelling?" Marcus's expression crumbled. He ran a hand over his face, taking a shaky breath. "I'm sorry, Lilybug, I'm upset right now." "At Victoria?" Lily's voice was small. "It's complicated, sweetie." Lily walked to Victoria, looking up at her with those two old eyes. "Did you do something bad?" Victoria knelt down to Lily's level. "I did something I thought was good, but I didn't ask your daddy first, and I should have. I'm sorry." "Are you still friends?" Victoria looked at Marcus, saw the hurt and betrayal in his eyes. "I hope so. We need to go," Marcus said quietly. "Come on, Lily." "But what about reading time?" "Not tonight." They left, and Victoria sat alone in her office, staring at the newspaper article that had seemed like such a good idea. She'd wanted to help. She'd wanted to make a difference. But she'd done it her way with her resources and her power, never stopping to consider that Marcus might not want to be saved. That being someone's project, even with good intentions, was still a form of control. For the next week, Marcus avoided her. He changed his schedule, working floors that Victoria wouldn't visit. When they did cross paths, he was professionally polite and personally distant. Lily didn't understand. She kept asking Victoria when they could read together again, when Daddy would stop being sad. Victoria had no answers. Then, 10 days after the article, Victoria received a letter. It was handwritten on lined paper, Marcus's careful script filling 2 pages. "Victoria, I've been thinking about what happened. I was angry because I felt exposed, like you'd taken our story and made it into something for public consumption. But I talked to Lily about it, and she said something that made me realize I was wrong. She said, 'Daddy, if Victoria's foundation helps other kids whose mommies are sick, isn't that good? Wouldn't Mama want that?' And she was right. Elena would want her name attached to something that helps people. I'm sorry I reacted so badly. I'm not used to people wanting to help us. I'm not used to trusting that kindness doesn't come with strings attached. I'm ready to talk if you are. We miss you." Victoria read the letter 3 times, her vision blurring with tears. Then she did something unprecedented. She left work in the middle of the day and drove to Marcus's apartment. He answered the door in sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, clearly surprised. "Victoria, what are you doing here? I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen to the whole thing before you respond." He let her in, and they sat on his worn couch, the afternoon sun streaming through the window. "I started this foundation because I wanted to help you. That part is true, but it's more complicated than that." Victoria took a breath. "When I was 17, I wanted to go to art school. I was good at painting, really good. I'd been accepted to RASD with a partial scholarship. It was my dream. But my father said no. He said Ashfords build businesses, not paintings. He said art was a hobby, not a future. And I listened because I always listened. I became who he wanted me to be. I buried the part of me that loved creating things, that saw beauty instead of profit. And I've been burying her deeper every year since." Marcus was quiet, listening. "When I met you and Lily, I saw what I'd given up. Not art specifically, but the courage to fight for what matters. You gave up your education for love. You chose your daughter over your career. You made sacrifices I was too scared to make. And I wanted to give you what I never had, and we were a second chance. Victoria, I'm not finished. Creating that foundation wasn't just about helping you. It was about trying to fix my own regrets through someone else. And that wasn't fair to you. I should have asked. I should have treated you as an equal instead of a project. I'm sorry." Marcus reached for her hand. "I understand why you're apologizing. But you need to understand something too. You're not responsible for my choices, good or bad. I don't need you to save me. But I would really like it if you could be my friend. Our friend." Is that what you want? Just friendship? The question hung between them, loaded with everything they hadn't said. Marcus looked down at their joined hands. I don't know. I care about you, Victoria. More than I should, probably. But we live in different worlds. You're my boss. You're a billionaire. I'm a janitor raising a daughter on 2 part-time jobs. How would that even work? I don't know either, Victoria admitted. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I have in 10 years. And I know that Lily makes me laugh in a way I'd forgotten was possible. And I know that walking away from both of you would be the biggest mistake of my life. Marcus pulled her closer, and this time there was no interruption. He kissed her softly, hesitantly, like he was afraid she might disappear. Victoria kissed him back, tasting salt and hope, and the terrifying possibility of happiness. When they broke apart, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. This is crazy. Completely crazy, Victoria agreed. We should probably take this slow. Definitely slow. They were both smiling, but neither of them knew that taking it slow wouldn't be an option, because the next day Victoria would receive an email that would unravel everything they thought they knew. An email from a private investigator she'd hired weeks ago, before she'd realized what Marcus and Lily had come to mean to her. An email containing a truth that would explain why Lily had walked into her office that first night, why a crumpled tissue had changed 3 lives forever. Some connections aren't coincidental. Some are written in blood and tragedy, and secrets that have been buried for 27 years. Victoria sat in her office at 6 a.m. reading the investigator's report for the 3rd time. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the papers. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be possible. But the DNA results didn't lie. The birth certificates didn't lie. The hospital records from 1998 didn't lie. 27 years ago, Patricia Ashford had given birth to twins at San Francisco General Hospital. 2 girls, identical, but only one came home. The other was declared dead due to complications, or so the official records stated, except she hadn't died. She'd been given up for adoption, placed with a family named Morrison. Catherine Morrison, who later married a man named Rodriguez. Catherine Rodriguez, who died of lymphoma 3 years ago. Elena, Marcus's wife, had been Victoria's twin sister, which meant Lily wasn't just a 7-year-old who'd shown Victoria kindness. She was Victoria's niece, her blood. Victoria stood up abruptly, knocking over her coffee. The brown liquid spread across the white carpet, but she barely noticed. Her mother had lied. Her father had lied. They'd told her she was an only child, that the complications during birth had been minor, that there was nothing to grieve or question, but they'd given away one baby and kept the other. They'd chosen Victoria and abandoned her sister, and Elena had grown up never knowing she had a twin, never knowing she'd been born into wealth and given away like she was disposable. The door opened, and Jennifer appeared. Ms. Ashford, your 9 o'clock is... Are you all right? Victoria looked at her assistant and realized she was crying. Cancel everything today. Everything. But the board meeting. Cancel it. Tell them I have a family emergency. She drove to her mother's house in Pacific Heights, barely remembering the journey. Patricia answered the door in a silk robe, surprised to see her daughter at 7:30 in the morning. Victoria? What on earth? You had twins. Victoria's voice was flat, controlled. You had 2 daughters and you gave one away. All the color drained from Patricia's face. Who told you that? It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is that you lied to me for 27 years. What matters is that I had a sister and you let me believe I was alone. Patricia stepped back, letting Victoria enter. They stood in the marble foyer, 2 women who looked alike but had never really known each other. Your father made that decision, Patricia said quietly. The doctors said one of the twins had developmental issues, that she probably wouldn't survive, and if she did, she'd have severe disabilities. He didn't want to burden you or the family legacy with a damaged heir, so you just gave her away, without even trying. We were told it was the merciful thing to do, to let her be adopted by a family who could give her the attention she'd need. And did she? Have developmental issues? Patricia's silence was answer enough. She didn't, did she? There was nothing wrong with her. You just didn't want twins. Or maybe Dad didn't want to split the inheritance. Or maybe you just decided one daughter was enough. Victoria, it was complicated. Her name was Elena. Victoria's voice broke. She grew up in foster care until she was adopted at 5. She became a nurse. She married a man named Marcus, and they had a daughter named Lily. And then she died of cancer at 31 years old, having no idea she had a twin sister who could have helped her, who could have been there for her, who could have saved her. Patricia sat down on the stairs, suddenly looking very old. I didn't know she died. I swear I didn't know. Would it have mattered if you did? Yes. Patricia looked up and Victoria saw genuine pain in her mother's eyes. I've regretted that decision every day for 27 years. Your father convinced me it was right, but I knew it was wrong. And when he died, I thought about finding her, about trying to explain. But what could I say? Sorry we threw you away. Victoria sank down onto the stairs beside her mother. I met her family, her husband and daughter. They're wonderful, Mom. They're kind and brave, and they've survived so much. And I've been spending time with them, becoming part of their lives, never knowing we were connected. You've met them? And Patricia's voice was sharp with interest. What are they like? Marcus is studying engineering. He gave up his education to care for Elena when she got sick. Lily is 7 years old and she's smart and funny and she looks exactly like Elena must have looked at that age. She looks like you mean? Victoria realized with a start that she was right. Lily's eyes, her smile, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, all of it was familiar because it was family. Blood calling to blood. What do I do? Victoria whispered. How do I tell them? Do you have to tell them? Victoria stared at her mother in disbelief. Yes, I have to tell them. Marcus deserves to know his wife had a family. Lily deserves to know she has an aunt. I deserve to know my niece. But think about what you're risking. Your reputation, your company. People will ask questions. They'll dig into why you've been spending time with a janitor and his daughter. They'll find out the truth and it will become a scandal. I don't care about scandal. Then think about them. Think about how Marcus will feel when he learns that the woman he's falling in love with is his dead wife's twin sister. Think about how that little girl will feel, being told that you're family but you're not her mother. It's cruel, Victoria. Sometimes the kindest thing is to let people keep their illusions. Victoria stood up. You would know about that, wouldn't you? You've been living with illusions for 27 years. But I won't. I can't. She left her mother sitting on the stairs and drove to Marcus's apartment. It was Saturday, so he'd be home. She had to tell him now before she lost her courage. But when Marcus opened the door, he was smiling. Victoria. Perfect timing. Lily and I were just about to go to the zoo. Want to come with us? Lily appeared behind him, already wearing her jacket. Please come, Victoria. They have baby penguins. Victoria looked at them, at Marcus's hopeful expression, at Lily's excitement, at the simple joy of a Saturday morning that was about to be destroyed. Actually, I need to talk to you about something. Something important. Marcus's smile faded. He must have seen something in her face because he turned to Lily. Hey, Bug, why don't you go play in your room for a few minutes? Victoria and I need to have a grown-up conversation. After Lily left, Marcus gestured for Victoria to sit. What's wrong? She sat on the edge of the couch, clutching the manila envelope containing the investigator's report. I need to tell you something about my family, about my past, and about Elena. Marcus went very still. What about Elena? 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator. Not because of you. This was before we really knew each other. I wanted to find out more about my family history because my father had always been secretive about his past. The investigator found some hospital records from 1998, records of my birth. She pulled out the documents, spreading them on the coffee table. Birth certificates, DNA results, hospital records. I wasn't an only child, Marcus. I had a twin sister. But my parents gave her up for adoption. They told everyone she died, but she didn't. She lived. And her name was Catherine Morrison before she was adopted. Catherine, who later married a man named Rodriguez. Marcus stared at the papers, not touching them, his face draining of color. No, that's not possible. I had the DNA tested. Elena's hairbrush that Lily still has some of her old jewelry. The results came back 2 days ago. Helena was my twin sister, which means Lily is your niece. Marcus stood up abruptly, backing away from her. You've known this for 2 days and you didn't tell me. I needed to process it first. I needed to understand what it meant. What it means is that you've been lying to us. You've been spending time with my daughter, getting close to her, and you knew the whole time that you were her aunt. I didn't know. Not until 2 days ago. Marcus, you have to believe me. When Lily walked into my office that first night, I had no idea who she was. This is as shocking to me as it is to you. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, pacing the small living room. Elena never knew? She lived her whole life not knowing she had a sister? My parents told her family she died. The adoption was closed, secretive. There was no way for her to know. And your parents? They just gave her away? My father convinced my mother it was the right thing to do. He said Elena had health issues that she wouldn't survive, but it was a lie. He just didn't want 2 daughters. Marcus laughed bitterly. Of course. Rich people problems. Too many heirs to manage, so just throw one away. Marcus, don't try to explain this away. He turned to face her, and Victoria saw tears on his cheeks. Elena grew up in foster care until she was 5 years old. Do you know what that's like? She told me stories about being hungry, about being moved from home to home, about learning not to trust that anyone would keep her. She had nightmares about it until the day she died. And the whole time she had a sister living in a mansion who could have prevented all of that. I didn't know. Victoria was crying now too. I would have found her if I'd known. I would have brought her home. I lost her too, Marcus. I lost a sister I never got to meet. You lost nothing. You can't lose what you never had. But Elena lost everything. She lost a family, a childhood, a fighting chance. And now you want to what? Step into her place? Become the rich aunt who saves us? That's not what I want. Then what do you want, Victoria? Why are you even here? The question hung in the air like a knife. I want to be part of Lily's life. I want to know my niece. Victoria's voice broke. I want to have the family I should have had all along. But you can't have that. Because Elena is dead, and nothing you do can bring her back or fix what your family did to her. Lily appeared in the doorway, her face streaked with tears. Daddy, why are you yelling? Why is Victoria crying? Marcus immediately went to his daughter, kneeling beside her. I'm sorry, Bug, I'm just upset right now. Is it because of what Victoria said? About being my aunt? Victoria and Marcus both froze. You were listening? Marcus asked gently. I didn't mean to, but you were talking loud and I got scared. Lily looked at Victoria. Are you really Mama's sister? Victoria nodded, unable to speak. Lily walked slowly across the room and stood in front of Victoria. Mama used to tell me that I had an angel watching over me. She said angels were family members in heaven who protected us. Was she talking about you? No, sweetie, I'm not an angel. I'm just a person who should have known about your mama but didn't. But you know about me now. Lily's logic was simple, childlike. And if you're Mama's sister, then you're my family, right? Right. Then it's okay. I always wanted more family. Lily climbed onto the couch and hugged Victoria fiercely. I'm glad Mama's sister found us. Victoria held her niece and wept, feeling Marcus's eyes on them both. When she looked up, his expression was complicated, anger and grief, and something that might have been acceptance. We need time, Marcus said quietly. This is too much to process right now. Lily and I need to talk about this as a family. I understand. Victoria stood up, gently disentangling from Lily's arms. But Marcus, I need you to know something. I loved Elena even though I never met her. And I love Lily. And I think I love you too. Not because you're connected to my sister, but because of who you are. Because you make me remember that life is about more than success and power. It's about love and sacrifice and showing up for the people who matter. She left before he could respond, her heart breaking with every step. For the next week, Victoria threw herself into work with the same intensity she'd once relied on to avoid feeling anything at all. But it didn't work anymore. She'd changed too much. The armor didn't fit. She created a trust fund for Lily's future education. She expanded the Elena Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship to support 20 students annually. She donated $1 million to cancer research in Elena's name. She did everything she could to honor the sister she'd never known, to try to balance the cosmic injustice of her own privileged life against Elena's struggles. But none of it filled the hole that Lily and Marcus had left in her life. On Friday evening, exactly 8 days after her revelation, Victoria was working late when she heard a familiar sound, small footsteps in the hallway outside her office. She looked up and saw Lily standing in the doorway, holding Mr. Trunks. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Lily. Does your dad know you're here? He's outside. He wanted me to come in first. Lily walked into the office and climbed onto Victoria's lap like she'd done it 100 times before. I missed you. I missed you too, sweetheart. Daddy and I had lots of talks this week. About Mama and about you and about families. And I decided something important. What did you decide? I decided that even though Mama isn't here, you are. And having an aunt is really special. And I don't want to lose you just because everything is confusing and sad. Victoria pulled Lily close, breathing in her strawberry-scented shampoo. You're not going to lose me. I promise. Marcus appeared in the doorway and Victoria saw that he'd been crying. She's right, we don't want to lose you. Marcus, let me finish. This week has been the hardest week I've had since Elena died. Because I've been angry at your parents. and sad for Elena and confused about what this means for us. But I realized something. Elena brought us together. I don't believe in coincidence, Victoria. I believe that somehow, some way, my wife knew that her daughter needed an aunt, that I needed someone who could understand what it means to sacrifice your dreams for family, that you needed us as much as we needed you. He walked into the office and took Victoria's hands. I don't know what this relationship looks like. Aunt and niece? Friends? Something more? But I know that I want you in our lives. If you want to be there, there's nowhere else I want to be. Lily clapped her hands. Does this mean you can come to my school play next week? I'm playing a butterfly. Victoria laughed through her tears. I wouldn't miss it for anything. 6 months later, Victoria Ashford stood in front of the board of directors and made an announcement that shocked Silicon Valley. She was stepping down as CEO to take a position as Chief Innovation Officer, a role that would allow her to work on product development and strategic initiatives without the constant pressure of managing day-to-day operations. I've spent 10 years building this company, she told the board, but I've also spent 10 years forgetting that businesses exist to serve people, not the other way around. I want to get back to creating things that matter, and I want time for a life outside these walls. Thomas Crawford actually smiled. I think that's wise, Victoria. We've already identified a strong candidate for CEO, someone who shares your vision but brings different strengths. The new CEO was Rebecca Chen, a brilliant strategist who'd been waiting in the wings for years. She was perfect for the role, and Victoria felt nothing but relief as she handed over the responsibilities that had defined her for so long. She moved out of her sterile penthouse and bought a house in the Mission District, 3 blocks from Marcus and Lily. It wasn't as big or as impressive as her previous home, but it had a yard for Lily to play in, and a studio where Victoria had started painting again. Marcus graduated with honors in mechanical engineering and accepted a position at a prosthetics company, designing affordable artificial limbs for children. He proposed to Victoria on a Tuesday evening while they were helping Lily with her homework, presenting a ring that had belonged to Elena, a simple silver band that felt like a blessing from beyond. On their wedding day, a butterfly landed on Lily's shoulder during the ceremony and stayed there for 3 full minutes. Lily smiled up at the sky and whispered, "Hi, Mama. Thanks for sending her to us." Victoria thought about all the turns her life had taken to bring her to this moment, about tragedy and coincidence, about sisters separated and families found, about a little girl with a crumpled tissue who'd seen past the armor to the wounded person underneath. She'd spent 27 years believing success meant building empires and accumulating power. But standing there with Marcus's hand in hers and Lily grinning in her flower girl dress, Victoria finally understood what her father had never known. The only empire worth building was one made of love, and the only legacy that mattered was the family you chose to fight for. Every single day, no matter how broken or unconventional or impossibly perfect it might be.